A dream can have a big impact in your life. In fact, one dream from God can change the course of your entire life. So we're going to talk about life-changing dreams. There are quite a few people in the Bible who have had life-changing dreams. And a man by the name of Gideon is one of them. We find the story of Gideon in the book of Judges, the 7th chapter. And it talks about how Gideon is preparing to fight a group of people called the Midianites. But God gives him some strange instructions. God tells him to take only 300 men with him to the battle. But Gideon thought, how in the world would he win a battle with only 300 men against thousands of men in the Midianite group? And so, quite naturally, Gideon had fear, he had doubt that he would win the battle. And so one day, God gave a dream to someone in Gideon's camp to encourage Gideon. And we see that in the book of Judges, the 7th chapter. The 13th verse says, Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down and worshiped. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. So this dream was life-changing for Gideon. Gideon was doubtful that he would win the battle with only 300 men, but this dream gave Gideon courage to fight the battle. It gave him faith. And so this changed the course of Gideon's life. And so there are dreams that we're given by God that can change our entire destiny. So I'm going to talk about a few famous people who had dreams that changed the course of their lives. Number one, Paul McCartney. Now, some of you may or may not remember, depending on your age, a group from England called the Beatles. And the group was very popular in the 60s and the early 70s. And one of the members of the group was Paul McCartney. And so Paul McCartney tells the story of how he had a dream one night. And in the dream, he heard the melody of a song which he later wrote called Yesterday. And so this particular song called Yesterday would go on to become one of the most famous songs in the history of the Beatles. And he heard it in a dream. Number two, George Frederick Handel. George Frederick Handel wrote the song called the Handel's Messiah, and some of you may know it. It goes, hallelujah, hallelujah. I am not a singer, but he wrote that song after hearing it in a dream. Number three, Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, came from him seeing it in a dream. Number four, a Canadian doctor by the name of Frederick Banting had two life-changing dreams. The first dream, he learned that sugar affects insulin production in the body. He saw that in the first dream. And then he had a second dream, and in that dream, it told him how to develop insulin to treat diabetes. The story is told of Dr. Banting, how his mother died at a very young age from diabetes, and so that always troubled him, and how he prayed and he asked God to show him a solution to that terrible disease. Many people in that time, this was in the 1800s, were dying from diabetes. And so God gave him the solution or the cure to diabetes in that dream. Number 5, Madam C.J. Walker. And so Madam C.J. Walker was the first Black female self-made millionaire in United States history. So it was around the early 1900s. Madam C.J. Walker tells a story of how she was very poor and she had to wash clothes for a living, and how because she didn't have any money to properly care for her hair was falling out. It was in very bad condition, and this worried her quite a bit. Well, one night, Madam C.J. Walker has a dream that a big black man, as she says, comes to her in the dream, and he tells her what ingredients to put in her hair to stop her hair from falling out. Well, when she woke up, she discovered that some of the ingredients, which she had never heard of, that the man in the dream told her could only be found in Africa. So she sent to Africa for the ingredients, and when she got them, she mixed up the ingredients that the man had told her, and she put the ingredients in her hair. And sure enough, she said her hair started growing fast, and her hair was doing so well that she took the concoction that she mixed and she started using them on her friends. And of course, they had the same results, and the rest is history. So Madam C.J. Walker became a multi-millionaire in her day from hair care products. And that idea came from a dream. Wow. Number 6, Elias Howe. Elias Howe invented the sewing machine, and he invented the machine, but he had a hard time figuring out how to get the needle that attached to the machine to catch the thread. Well, one night he had a dream that he was captured by a group of natives, and the natives was dancing around him holding their spears. And when he looked closely at the spear, he saw at the end of the spear was a hole toward the sharp part of the spear. And he woke up. And he knew that he was being shown how to cause the thread to easily, the needle to easily catch the thread. And that was by putting a hole at the end of the needle as opposed to the top of the needle, and the rest is history. So dreams, one dream from God can be life-changing. I know I had a similar dream or a life-changing dream about 11 or 12 years ago. I had a dream one night that I was working in a healthcare facility. I'm a nurse by trade, and I came upon one of my cousins who was also a nurse. And in the dream, she was holding 2 babies. One baby was black and one baby was white. And I said to her, "Where did you get those babies?" And she laughed and she said, "Oh, these are not real babies. These are dolls." And I couldn't believe it because the dolls were acting like real babies. They were moving, they were cooing and all that stuff. And I was totally blown away. And she said, "There's a nurse that works here who makes and sells these dolls." And I said to her, "Well, I want one." And I woke up. And so I thought that dream was quite interesting. I tried to apply a symbolic meaning to the dream, and I prayed about the dream and pondered over the dream. And about 3 weeks later or so, I was talking to one of my sisters, and I mentioned the dream to her. And she said, well, several years ago, I saw on the internet where a woman in some other country were making dolls that looked real. I said, oh, really? She said, yeah, Google it and see if you can find it, anything like that. So I Googled dolls that look real. And sure enough, dolls came up, pictures of beautiful, beautiful dolls that looked like real babies. But when I looked at the price of the dolls, I got very discouraged. The dolls cost thousands of dollars, but I really wanted one of those baby dolls. So while I was staring at the screen, the Lord spoke to me and he said, you were the nurse in the dream who was making the dolls. And that totally blew me away because I do not have an artistic bone in my body. I have tried to make different things in life, and let me tell you, I'm not an arts and craftsy kind of person. So I was very doubtful. I knew God had spoke to me. I knew it was the voice of God, but I had a hard time believing that I could make a doll like that. And so I pondered over it in my heart, and I thought about it. And so I told that same sister what God had spoke to me. And she said, well, maybe you can figure out how to make them. And so I did. I went on a long search. It took about a year for me to learn how to make those dolls, but I did. And so I became what they call a reborn doll artist. So they call them reborn dolls or lifelike dolls. And I made the dolls, sold thousands of dolls, sent the dolls to different states in the United States. I've sold dolls at festivals. And so that particular dream was life-changing because it changed the course of my life financially, and it also showed me what God had placed on the inside of me. So God will also use dreams to show you what's on the inside of you, things that you are totally unaware of. So one dream from God can change the course of your entire life. And I'm going to put some pictures of my dolls at the end of this video. Well, I hope you learned something. If you have had any life-changing dreams, I want to hear about it. Put it in the comments section below. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Also, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any upcoming videos. I'll talk to you next time.